welcome back to another episode of the Plant Fueled Femme. Today we have Cindy with us again. Cindy Dupuie joined us a little while back, and we did a kind of a deep dive into functional medicine and labs and hormones, and how all of that works together, and basically giving you some education on what markers to ask for when you go to the doctors, and then understanding those results that you're getting back. But today, Cindy and I are going to dive into hormones and bioidentical hormone therapy and when to start and stop our hormone therapy. And I think this is going to shape up to be a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today, Cindy.
I'm so glad to be back. I'm so glad to continue this conversation. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I know we were like going and going last time, and I think we ran out of time. And I was like, we have to just have another conversation.
Yes, yes. It's not a one-time deal. No,
No,
ever.
no, definitely not. It's a vast topic. We could
hmm
probably do one podcast on each hormone, but today
hmm
our goal
hmm
is to, supply some education, some information, and hopefully provide our audience with, just a little more power when you go in and you're trying to advocate for yourself.
Yes, yes.
So I know one of the things we're supposed to talk about today is stopping and starting hormone therapy. Um, I know that a lot of women start hormone therapy in perimenopause, but then
Mhm.
I know a lot of women do not start hormone therapy in perimenopause
Mhm.
and then can be intimidated to start it post-menopause.
Right. So, I always kind of feel like I need to kind of define postmenopause because some people say, am I in menopause? Am I postmenopause? When I talk about postmenopause, that means you're in menopause, okay? I mean, technically, menopause is the day that it's supposed to be a year after you stop having your last period, okay? Supposedly that's menopause, and then postmenopause is the day after. So, menopause is AKA postmenopause. And yeah, a lot of women do. So, when do you start? A lot of women do start hormone therapy in their perimenopausal years, and we may have covered this a little bit when we were talking about labs because I do talk about labs when I think about perimenopause. And one of the things that I like to bring up is there are a lot of things that can be going on in a woman's body during perimenopause that may not be attributed necessarily to her, cattywampus, what her ovaries are doing, what her estrogen's doing, what her progesterone's doing. It can be more related to thyroid. So doing a really good thyroid panel is really important. So having said that, I think starting HRT in perimenopause can be appropriate for some women, but I always like to stress it's really important to have a full lab workup. And, we talked about it and I just looked it up. It was episode 108. And if you go to that, you'll get what that full breakdown is. You also get a link to my PDF, free PDF, where it tells you what you need to ask for, why, and how to ask for it. Okay, so that's really important. And a lot of women start to have difficulty with sleep during perimenopause. And so maybe a practitioner will put them on progesterone because the oral progesterone, not so much transdermal, although that can have a calming effect as well, but mainly the oral progesterone, much of that is turned into something called allopregnanolone, and that's very calming in the brain. It can help women with sleep and with some anxiety. And what's happening is as our hormones are stopping and starting and sputtering and trying to figure out what the heck they're supposed to be doing during perimenopause. And for some women, it's just much more pronounced than for other women. Um, if we're not really having that boost in that ovulation there, that corpus luteum, all of that during ovulation, it's just kind of like an we're not going to be getting that progesterone that's usually produced from that corpus luteum. And so that progesterone can come down and not be as robust in that luteal phase. So they can just throw everything off. And sometimes these women only need it during the luteal phase. Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, so it's really playing with things. And this is something I want to say right now before I forget about it. Is because HRT has such a stigma around it, is like it's dangerous on so many different levels. We've heard it can cause cancer, which is not true. We have heard, for the most part, it's not true. The only one that might increase it a little bit is the fake progestin. Okay, so I just want to say that estradiol does not. Okay. And so we think about that. And some doctors are worried about heart disease and blood clotting and strokes and things like that. And so women are really afraid to play with this.
Mhm.
And something I want to tell women is that, we have quite a bit of estrogen and progesterone and testosterone flowing through our bodies for how many years, right? Way more than what we're going to get taking HRT for the most part on most programs. Okay, there are some programs that do things a little bit differently, like the Wiley protocol. Maybe on pellets, we might find something different there. But I would say most of the HRT that we're going to be getting, the transdermal, sometimes even oral, it's not going to be these high amounts. So, having said that, don't be afraid to play with things a little bit. Um, so, maybe try some progesterone. Maybe that doesn't work for you. Maybe try transdermal. You can play around with things. You can, and if you're really struggling, and especially in perimenopause, when your hormones are all over the place, there's a company called Mira, Mira. I think it's the name of it. And they historically have been around been to utilize for fertility. Okay, so they're watching very, very closely where a woman's hormones are on a daily basis. Okay, really struggling and having a really hard time. They're all over the place. You can do that when you're in perimenopause. Use that kit, and it's urine. You just pee on a stick, and it'll tell you where your hormones are at. And it can differ from month to month. So perimenopause is a tough one. It just is. So it can just help you. And sometimes actually seeing those numbers can help you understand what's happening in your body. And you might get to a point where it's like, oh, I don't need to test it because I know how I feel and what's happening. So it's kind of solid in front of you. So you can start hormone HRT in perimenopause, and it will shift as you get closer to menopause. And again, some women don't need it. And again, really good blood work on top of that to make sure that we're not missing an opportunity to support a woman in a different way. Progesterone can also help with the conversion of free T4 to T3. So this is thyroid, and also can help with autoimmune disease. So where a woman has Hashimoto's, all of a sudden with her progesterone going down, estrogen going down, we can see a surge in that. That's the perimenopause. And then it's usually pretty easy for women who, the first 10 years that they're in menopause, postmenopause, menopause, it's usually fairly easy for a woman to get hormone replacement therapy from their doctors because they're within that 10-year window.
Mhm.
And here again, it is just a circus as to how much education the doctors have, how much experience they have, clinical experience, which makes a huge difference. And if you just get a NAMS, North American Menopause Society trained practitioner, it's just on a very conservative, very, it's not enough. It's a start, but it's not enough. All right. So again, usually within those first 10 years, it's pretty easy to get hormone replacement therapy. Um, it's the women who are out of that 10-year window that it becomes more difficult for. So my generation, unfortunately, and older, I mean, I went through menopause, and I think I said this the last time I was there when I was 43, so it was pretty early. It was a pretty early menopause. I threw myself in it,
Mhm.
variety of reasons. And that was also, so that was back in 2002, 2003. In 2002 is when the Women's Health Initiative study came out. So once that came out for the last over 2 decades, it's just been this narrative that HRT will cause cancer, it'll cause stroke, and it's dangerous. So HRT has just not been offered to
Mhm.
women, right, who are going through menopause during those years. And so they're outside of that, 20 years, 15 years outside of that window, and doctors are afraid. Okay. And, it's the liability, it's the Wild West on what different studies say and the meta-analysis. And if people aren't familiar with meta-analysis, that is when there's a study of different, or a paper, okay? There's analysis of many different studies that are out there, but you have to understand what hormones the studies are using, what's the age of the group, and there's so many different factors that go into it. So meta-analysis are not always the best place to stop. It might be a place to start, but how many people really understand how to go deep in this? Okay. They don't understand the different, yeah. I mean, I do, but that's because I spent a hell of a lot of time trying to understand it, right?
Right.
And the average lay person is not going to. So I'll give you a case in point, just sharing my own experience. So I'm 68 and I have been on HRT for 18 years. All right. So I've been on it for quite a while. It's not like I'm asking to be put on it for the very first time. And I am part of Kaiser, and I was establishing a relationship with the new PCP. I chose a DO, Doctor of Osteopath, thinking she would have a broader scope on things, and she does in some ways. But the first thing she said to me when I walked in there, "You're an HRT." And the way she said it's like, I can't believe you are. That's like, it's
Right.
really a bad thing. And I looked at her, I said, yes, and I'm not going off. And so we, I had blood work done and I needed to follow up, and I let her know in between that time that, hormone replacement therapy is important to me. I would like to be with a doctor who would support me in that. If that can't happen, then maybe I need to get a new doctor. I was just being, really upfront. And so I went in and talked to her. And in the meantime, I sent over, my DEXA scan, some other things that I had gotten done a year or two beforehand. So she had a better scope, also a complete heart workup, right? So I had a complete cardiology because my heart decided to do some things, and it's like, really? So I have a little bit of a valve issue. Okay, sometimes it doesn't close, and it's like, all right, so that's what's causing it. And my inflammation markers are zero. And well, I mean, not zero, but they're really, really low. So she has all this information in front of her. And her big issue was not cancer. Her big issue was she was afraid it would cause stroke or cardiovascular disease. And I'm going, you have all my records.
Right.
You know that that's not an issue with me. I have been on HRT. It's not like we're starting it.
Hmm.
But the bottom line for her was that she wasn't comfortable. She just
Hmm.
was not comfortable. That's fair. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So then she gave me a referral to OBGYN. So these poor OBGYNs, let me tell you, they're
Oh,
getting
yeah.
all these referral from PCPs who don't know what they're doing. OBGs need to be delivering babies.
Right. No.
So PCPs need to be trained. It's like for continuing education, you're going to be seeing all these women, right? You need to go to some classes.
Right.
Or
Yes.
menopause, yeah, perimenopause. So the interesting thing is, so yeah, she was very much dead set against it. I stuck to my guns,
Did you?
and yes, and I said no. And the interesting thing is, and this is where the disconnect is that she, as she was walking out the door, she says to me, I saw your DEXA scan, so looking at my bone density, which I think is important. It's not the end all be all when it comes to bone health, but it's
Right.
important, test. And she said, she says, look good. And I said, yeah. And she goes, it's your estrogen. And I just went,
Oh, that's
okay,
wild.
that is wild. So for women who are listening here, estrogen was approved by the FDA in 1975,
Yeah.
1975,
Right.
to prevent osteoporosis. It was
Yes.
approved.
Right.
Okay. So it's like, all right, yeah, this is helping me. And I wanted to say, and I'm probably the healthiest 68-year-old you have in your practice. And
Probably.
HRT, yeah. And HRT isn't the end all be all,
Right.
but it's definitely a part of it. So that's a great way. I'm going to segue a little bit here into, I think it's really important that we all understand exactly the functions of estrogen in our bodies. I mean, I'm not talking about HRT, I'm just talking about the hormones themselves and progesterone and testosterone. Do I want to say anything? Yes, I do. Before I go there, I do want to say a few more things about when you start and you stop. So, in my opinion, there's no reason ever for a woman to stop her hormone replacement therapy unless maybe, probably, not maybe, but most likely, maybe she has a estrogen positive or progesterone positive type of cancer. Okay, at that point in time, we're not going to be wanting to put that in her body, right? Okay, so that would be a time when there's an active growth and cancer going on. We're not going to want to do that. So that would be probably be the only time. And I do want to say right here, so if you have had a hormone positive cancer, does that mean you can never use HRT? No, it does not mean that. And there needs to be more and more conversations about that. It's not something that we'll get into here because it's a vast conversation. Yeah, it is. But I would like to give someone a resource.
Yeah, yeah, please do. If you have one, that's
Two
fantastic.
resources, yes. If you've ever had cancer, especially a hormone positive cancer, I recommend you reading a book called Hormone Matters. Yeah, Hormones Matter. Yes, I think it's the name of it. And it's written by an oncologist who his wife and his daughter also had breast cancer. And he's written a book that is just explains some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about here and weighing the quality of life and other factors as well, which I think is really important. So that's one resource. Another resource is an excellent podcast, and it's called Menopause and Cancer. And it's a beautiful, Danny Bennington hosts it. She's a great host. She has women who have had breast cancer, their decisions to either take HRT, not take HRT, their journey, talking to doctors and oncologists, and opening up a whole place for discussion. So it's actually very, very good. So those are two resources I would like to give your women who have experienced cancer because they really have very little support. We think we have little support and a lot of confusion.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no, I know they have far less.
yes, it's horrible. Um, so again, going on to the very end, you're going to be, if you want to take away my hormones, you're going to have to cut off my hands or something, right? Because I'm not letting go of them. And if nothing else, every single woman, in my opinion, even ones that are possibly, just outside of cancer treatment, should be, if they're not taking systemic,
Hmm.
estradiol should be doing vaginal estradiol or estriol, one of the two, estrogen. And the reason being is that's just basically taking care of the urogenital tract, that area there, which is super important for a variety of reasons. One is because you're a lot more comfortable. It's not gonna feel like you've got sandpaper down there. Maybe more importantly would be that incontinence is helped, okay? And UTIs, most importantly, UTIs. So with incontinence, we can have more UTIs because the urine, you might have a pad or you might be wearing a diaper at night or whatever. And I know probably, I mean, it's even hard for me to think about that, but it happens a lot.
No, I
Okay.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the most ridiculous solutions are just sold, like in the grocery store. And
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm just like, but that's not the solution.
That's not the solution. And so I have older women coming in and they have UTI after UTI after
Yes.
UTI.
Yes.
And I said, has your doctor ever recommended you go on, vaginal estrogen? No. I said, well, we're going to ask for it. I mean, it's crazy.
Mm,
And the other thing, one of the things that estrogen does in that area is it changes the bacteria, it changes the pH so that, maybe we didn't wipe quite properly, right? The pH will take care of some of those bacteria that we don't want to get into that whole urinary tract. So it's really important. And as women get older, they often don't detect that they have a UTI, which can go to the kidneys, which can also affect their brains
oh, yeah.
and become, yeah, critical. So I think every woman should be on vaginal estrogen if she's not taking systemic estrogen.
Mhm.
Now, since most doctors don't prescribe enough systemic estrogen, um, yeah, they're underprescribed. I would say, I don't even know what the percentage is. I'm going to guess at least 70 to 80% of women are underprescribed.
Oh, yes, easy. I'm dealing with a huge situation of that right now with a
You
client.
are.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you do. I mean, it may, very little bit of estrogen can handle the symptoms that we think about that we associate with
Yes.
Yeah. But to protect the bones, to protect, the brain, the moods, your blood sugar, your insulin resistance. So
Mhm.
where do you like to see blood levels of estrogen?
In postmenopausal women,
Yes, if she's on HRT.
up above 100, not at 30 for Pete's sake.
Yeah, not for 30 at Pete's sake.
No, that's awful. Right. And just because that's what is normal for a postmenopausal woman does not mean that it's healthy.
You want to know something? Yes, no, it's not. And it's normal for a postmenopausal woman that's not on HRT. You want to know
Mhm.
something? Because I just asked, I'm a little bit, ADD, so I'm going to go off a little bit. We are going to come back to what estrogen and progesterone does in the body because it's really important to have that 101, that understanding, that basis. Then you can understand why you probably don't want to come off of your HRT at any age. Okay. I think it's good to have that basis. So I have been on creams and love them, okay, for years.
Right.
But I'm a little tired of having to pay a doctor outside of my Medicare system
Yeah.
and for the creams because it's not covered, right? Patches are covered, gels are covered, but creams are not because they're compounded, blah, blah, blah. So I'm trying, I'm doing my due diligence, right? I'm trying to make this work. And so the OBGYN that my doctor has sent me to, he was cool. It was a male. You guys,
Wow.
males are okay. Yeah. I have been to a couple males. It's like I prefer them over women when it comes to listening to me. Yes.
Really? That's
So
incredible.
yeah, so you don't want to dispel them. And I did read his little bio. I did read, okay, I'm gonna try him out. And he was willing to give me the highest patch. I talked him into it.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. Good for you.
Yeah, he did. And he says, but we're going to be pulling you back after a while. It's like he was looking at me like he was writing it down that we're going to have a conversation. I think he had to do that.
Mm,
And so I went, okay, I got it. I got it. I got it. So this particular patch is a week-long patch. Most patches you change, out every 3 days or so.
yeah.
This one was a week-long patch. So I put it on. And I'm going, all right. And I'm going, you know, by the end of the week, I'm kind of feeling it. Like
Mhm.
it's not quite enough. So then I asked him if I was getting other blood work done. Oh, by the way, my GP, I asked, I said, she was getting blood work done for me. I said, can you add in estradiol? No,
Mhm.
I can't. You have to go to the OBGYN for that. I go, really? Okay. So I did. And he said, okay, but even if it's low, I'm not going to increase your amount. Fine, I didn't ask for you. I just want to see where it's at.
Yeah.
Okay, so I purposefully did it on the last day of the patch just to see where the level was because I'm going, this isn't quite right.
Mhm.
It was below 30, right? It was
Right.
below 30.
No wonder you felt like it wasn't enough.
Yeah. And so the interesting thing was, Clarissa, is that on Kaiser's um, lab work,
Mhm.
it did give you a range of postmenopausal woman on HRT. It did give it. And it was a damn good range. And I forget exactly what it was. I'm going, do I have my lab work? No, I don't. I think it was between 60 and at least 100. So I went, wow.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
was,
amazing.
yeah, I was
I've
really
never
surprised
seen
to
that
see.
on any of
I
our
hadn't, nope, I hadn't either. So I was really surprised to see that.
Wow.
And the interesting thing is yeah, so it was like, oh, on HRT, that's kind of, I guess, maybe that's a guideline for you. So that's a first.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do some of my own hacking, and I ordered some blood work of about 5 markers for me because something came back and I thought, you know what, Cindy, just order it yourself, pay it out of pocket. It's not going to be much. And I decided I wanted to see what my estradiol was on the second day of the patch. Okay.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was at 170.
Okay.
Now, that's,
That's a big drop.
you're going, you know, you're going like that. And so I wrote back to him and I said, can I go on the twice a week patch?
Mhm.
And he did change it. He did change it. I didn't tell him because I didn't know at the time that I was at 170 at the beginning of the week with the once a week patch. I will tell him that in a little bit. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is it's important to measure Okay,
Yeah.
have blood workup done. And if you're on a patch, especially a weak patch, you might want to see at the beginning and at the end to see where you're at. And I agree with Clarissa, it needs to be at least 60,
Yeah.
and everyone's a little bit different. I find I'm okay at 100. I'm
Mhm.
probably a little bit better at 120, but I'm okay at about 100. I'm okay there. And it's, you need to know because
Yes.
it's all the stuff that goes on below that surface that, it's not the hot flash. It's not the insomnia. It's not maybe the achy bones and the achy joints. And maybe, it's the heart disease. It's the high blood
Mhm.
pressure. It is, the osteoporosis. It is cancer too, ladies. And if you think about it, okay, heart disease is still the number one killer of postmenopausal women, not cancer. And cancer is still the highest in postmenopausal women. And that's when her hormones are at the lowest. If you start
Mm.
thinking about what makes sense. Now, cancers have gone up in
Mhm.
women younger, which I think are totally driven by environmental.
Oh, yes. Well, that
Yeah.
and birth control, like
Thank you.
that is the number one carcinogen right now. Like it is on the news. There are countless articles on it. There's studies on it, and they just still,
About the birth control pill?
yeah,
I haven't caught those. Oh my
really.
gosh,
Yeah.
Clarissa.
I went on a birth control tangent several months ago,
You
and
did.
yeah, well, because women come in and CRP is off the chart, and there's
Mhm.
no estrogen, there's no progesterone, there's no testosterone, and they've been on birth control for 20 years.
hmm So their body hasn't. Okay, so you're just saying all the things that I've been thinking in the back of my head. Again,
Yeah.
we will get to what estrogen does.
Right.
But it's knowing what estrogen does. And the other thing, okay, so it's important for us. I mean, we're in birth control, which I'm sure you've already ranted about.
Mhm.
All of the wonderful things that estrogen does for us is just totally squashed by birth control pills. Our body never has an opportunity to get into all those juicy things that our hormones do for us. And then on top of it, and I'm sure you've talked about this too, they are given progestin. And
Yes.
progestin, in
Right.
any study where there's been a slight increase in cancer, has been where when they've used progestin.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, okay, you've seen it, you've connected the dots, and I had been connecting the dots but not as precisely and concisely as you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it was, I think it was out earlier this year, when they were going through and reclassifying estrogen and testosterone with the FDA. There was at the same time a whole bunch of new information came out about birth control, classifying it
Mm,
as a class one carcinogen because, like you said, the progestins.
yeah, yeah. So okay, so women have been taking birth control progestins plus the environmental,
Yes.
toxins that we're exposed to in utero, and then,
Right.
when we're born. So unfortunately, it has increased. I don't know what fold in women who are 50 and younger, which is really unfortunate. Yeah, it's crazy. So let's go to estrogen hormones 101. All right, so the functions of estrogen. Estrogen, well, there's three different types of estrogens, and I think that's important to know.
Yes.
We have something called estrone, and we need all three of them, by the way. We
Yes.
have estrone, we have estradiol, and we have estriol. Estrone is E2, and our body can make it from estradiol. Our body will make more of this type of estrogen when we are postmenopausal, because that's the type of estrogen that can be aromatized by an enzyme from our fat. That fat belly our body wants to put on, midlife. Part of it is because it wants to create some fat so it can create some estrogen, no matter what form.
Right.
Okay. So it makes the more inflammatory form, which is estrone. We need a little bit, but not a lot. Our body makes that belly fat in response to being less insulin sensitive too. Okay, that's not estrone, that's estradiol. So that's one of the estrogens that we have, and we need some. It's probably dominant, most dominant in women postmenopausal, unless she's on HRT. Then we have estradiol. And estradiol is the most abundant estrogen that our body makes during our fertile years. either transdermal or pellet or even oral. There's some oral forms as well. And then we have, and now I'm going to go back to estradiol in a minute. And then we have estriol. And estriol is the least inflammatory of the estrogens. And often vaginal estrogen will be in the form of estriol. And a couple, years back when some of the smarter doctors were putting their clients back on estrogen, they were using an 80-20, a biestrogen. So they were using 80% estriol and 20% estradiol, which is what I was put on for many years. I had no idea, right? It still helped.
Okay.
And there are still some doctors that there's wars and there's biased wars. There's some doctors that are just like, yes, we have to have both those kind of estrogens. And then there's other doctors say, no, we just need estradiol because our bodies will make the estriol from it. So estriol is most abundant when we're pregnant. And one of the reasons why, yeah, estrogen and progesterone, and a couple different reasons. And one of the reasons why is that it calms the immune system. It really pulls it down. So a woman, let's say with an autoimmune disease, often will go into remission, right, during pregnancy because of that extra progesterone and estriol. So it is the dominant form of estrogen during pregnancy. So why we want a whole bunch of that when we're in postmenopause, I don't know. But if you haven't, I can see where estriol would be used in more of a therapeutic way, like if you have MS or an autoimmune or something like that, maybe you would get more benefit from it, using more of that. So let's go back to estradiol. So estradiol brings down inflammation. It makes us more insulin sensitive, really important. It affects our neurotransmitters, our serotonin, our dopamine. It affects our hippocampus. And so we're thinking about dementia, Alzheimer's. It definitely helps reduce the breakdown of our bone. Okay, so it helps with osteoporosis. It helps to produce nitric oxide, which definitely has a lot to do with blood pressure and stroke. And inflammation has a lot to do with blood pressure and stroke. It also is part of keeping our mitochondria humming along. So when we start to think about, going and becoming postmenopausal or getting closer to 65, we'll see many women on what I call polypharmacy. I'm sure you've heard that word before, where, people are on at least 3 medications. And I would say if a woman is not on HRT, she there's a good possibility that she is on a blood pressure medication. She is on a statin, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then she might be on a biphosphonate, which is what they'll give a woman if she is moving towards or is in an osteoporotic state. Her numbers say that she has enough bone loss where she is classified as being osteoporotic. Those are probably the 3 big ones. And then if you've been taking a statin a while, you'll probably end up taking metformin because often statins will be a precursor to diabetes. And even if you're not in a statin, if you don't have the estrogen in your body, genetics tends towards having a difficult time managing blood sugar, then you might be on metformin, all right? So when we start to understand all that, and we start to understand the benefits of estradiol, of hormone replacement therapy, why would we go off of it,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I have no idea either. Now, there aren't any randomized good trials out there. There aren't any good studies out there. I mean, really all we can do is gather clinical, what's happened, right? And gather information from that. And there is some clinical, and I keep on hearing this over and over, and even from people who I really like, and I went, you just kind of put a slant on it. And that is, you know, blood vessels, the first 10 years going into menopause. That is true. That's where you're going to get the most bang for your buck. And if you do start HRT after the fact, Okay, maybe you have some plaque laid down. Is that going to reverse that? No. Is it going to prevent or lower the inflammation, which is what causes, heart disease? Yes. So you're still going to get benefit. It's just not going to be quite the same as if you had started it, at the beginning of menopause. So don't let anyone discourage you. And when it comes to heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and the doctor is really hesitant. Um, those studies have been more on oral because it has to go through the hepatic path. There's been no studies in relationship that I know of to heart disease when it comes to transdermal. So, you can talk to your doctor about that. And, I know a doctor who wouldn't put one of my clients on HRT because there's heart disease in her family. She doesn't have it, but just because it's familial. And same thing with cancer, right? I have doctors that won't put women on HRT because there's cancer in her family. There's cancer in my family, for
Right.
God's sake. You know, there wasn't any previously, but it's not necessarily your genetics. The BRCA gene does not mean you're going to get cancer. The fact that you don't have the BRCA gene does not mean that you're not going to get cancer. It really doesn't play out that way. So I'm just hoping that more women will educate themselves. And then there's the women who have sailed through perimenopause and menopause, and they're doing great.
They are out there.
They are out there. And I have someone in my family, I just want to throttle her because she's in a ton of pain. She thinks she's doing great. And when I bring it up, she goes, well, there's all these older women who were never on, HRT. And I go, yeah. And they're in assisted living. They have osteoporosis. Yeah, they're strong and they grit their way through it. But could they be in much better health? And, we talk about longevity, and a lot of people are shifting it to health span. So could their health span, their vitality, could
Right.
that have been elongated?
Right.
So,
Yes. Well, and quality of life itself.
yes,
Just
yes,
yes.
yes.
Like I don't know any woman that would anticipate, spending 10 or 20 or 30 years with brain fog because your
Yeah,
hormones are low. Like, and that's one of the most simple symptoms.
I,
You-
I can't either. And, Clarissa, I mean, you're younger than I am. And, as we get older, so your audience is more your age, and I love that age.
Well,
I felt good at that age.
because there are still, we're still trying to find the right dose, and every time we find it, then the body changes, and then you find the right dose again, and you're like, oh my God, am I going to get through this? But it has to stop at some point.
Well, it does, but it doesn't. Okay. No, it actually doesn't. It's kind of like, when you've got a kid, right? And they like this food, this for these 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh God, I can't eat it anymore. It's the same thing, right? And then it kind of becomes something different as we get older. And I've been talking about resilience.
Hmm.
And because women can often feel like they've totally lost the resilience at different times, different stages during menopause. Now, I'm on adequate amounts of hormones and I eat pretty well. My lifestyle's pretty darn good. But I had a year this last year where I got hit.
Hmm.
And if I didn't know what I know,
Right.
there is no way I would have put the puzzle pieces together.
Right.
And that is frightening to me. And even though I was able to put the puzzle pieces together and know what tests I need to ask for, how to dig deeper and to put it together, connect the dots, it has still taken some time. And if I didn't know what
Hmm.
I know, I would be on some medication probably by now.
Right. No, I totally, completely get that.
Yeah.
Year last year must have been the year, but you're right. If you don't know, that is how you end up on your statins and on your medication to sleep and on the medication for anxiety and on the medication for depression and then like you said, like metformin, because you don't know. And unfortunately, the current medical system doesn't address root cause. You get
Yes,
symptom treatment, which is much different.
it's much different. And I was going to say two things here. Um, I can't think of one. I need more hormones. But the other one was my A1C had really gone up. My thyroid also shifted, and it was still within range, of course, but it wasn't my range. And that's important for women to know. You need to know what your normal is. So starting to do blood work in the late 30s, early 40s is really important as our bodies start going through these changes. So
Mhm.
you know what your normal is. So when it goes off from that, you get to have a leg to stand on. And by the way, the doctor did hear me when I said that. Yeah.
Good.
But the other thing is my A1C went up
Mhm.
to 5.8. That's not good. And my A1C is always a little bit higher, and it's usually around 5.6. And if it's 5.5, I'm like, pumping. That's just how I run. And I run a continuous glucose monitor. I look at my insulin, look at all that stuff. But what was driving the A1C? So most people think that it would be food driven, right? We think about glucose being up high, A1C being up high. We think of glucose.
Yes. Not
What
all
was
the
that?
time. Not all the
Not all
time,
the time,
but
but
yes,
most
but
people, but most
most
people
people.
do,
Yes, and
right?
your PCP will automatically think that.
Automatically,
Yes,
automatically.
but that's
S-
not the only thing that drives it.
Right. So, I gave myself 3 months and had it done again. I went down to 5.5. Did I change how I ate? Little bit because I actually was in Ecuador
Okay.
2 months out of the time when it was high, and I was eating more carbs than I usually eat. So, and my blood sugar just goes up. So it could have been that, but you know what else drives blood sugar, right? And that is stress,
Yep.
that is inflammation. And I had been dealing with a digestive system that was off.
Yep, there we go.
There we go, right?
There
For
we
like
go.
six,
Yes.
7 months,
Yeah.
maybe even, no, it was at least 7 months. And, digestion is my bailiwick.
Right. Yeah, no, I
That's,
know. See, like,
I know. It's like,
how did we
okay.
get so messed up?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was the stress,
Mhm.
it was the inflammation, it was everything just kind of was doing a spiral. And I had to make a lot of different adjustments. So, letting your women know, your audience know that we need a team. I mean, I don't know Clarissa that well. I've listened to her and just our conversations, she knows a lot. So when you need someone like Clarissa or me, anyone like that
Mhm.
on your team who can look at the numbers, who can track your history and
Yes.
go, okay, let's do it this way. And by the way, it might take a few months,
Oh yeah, definitely. That's
maybe
you
even
know, I
6 to 8.
apologize for that all the time. Like I so wish that I like had a magic button or a magic like something magic
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I could give you back your life. I could make you feel better. But
yeah,
it took us time to get to whatever dysfunction we're living in. And it's
yes,
going to take time to restore those foundations and get you out of it.
yes, yes. It totally is. So,
It's
yeah.
it's not fun. It requires a lot of patience and a lot of perseverance. But if you're working
Yes.
with someone like myself or yourself, you're not
Hmm.
alone. Like you have support.
You
And
do.
I don't like I'm very sure that if someone came in and you could not help them, you would tell them so. Like,
Yes. I mean, there have been one or two instances where I have done everything that I know of,
right,
and I'm still not getting, or, we are not getting to
right.
where we want to be. And that's when I let them know I'm at the end of the runway here. And yeah, that happens once in a while. Not very often, but it does.
But then you simply say so, and hopefully they can maybe someone that knows more than you do or more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to continue to string someone along in hopes that we can fix them when we've reached the end of our case.
Mm-hmm. 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 And I don't know about you, but my clients teach me all the time because when I do get stuck,
Oh
it's
yeah.
like, okay, let's go digging. And obviously you do that too. It's like we go digging.
Yes. Yeah. No, I do. I'm like, what did and I'll review tests that we did like 3 months ago because apparently I must have missed something.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it drives me nuts. But there's an answer. Your body
Hmm.
is very smart. It's adapted to, whatever the environment is, and it has the power to change. We just have to give it the right environment and the right resources.
Yeah, yeah, we do. And sometimes it takes longer than others to find it. Yeah.
Yes, that is true. Oh,
So
well,
we covered a lot.
it
Oh,
was
I didn't go into progesterone. What's the one I want to progesterone? It's calming. It is
okay.
good for our bones as well. It is, it affects our GABA neurotransmitters, good for sleep. I mean, progesterone kind of gets like the second, it's like the bridesmaid, right? The estrogen
Right.
is the is the bride, and progesterone is the bridesmaid. And some women really don't like progesterone. And I'm kind of, if I could not have progesterone, I actually would be happy. But I have a uterus, so I have to
Right.
have progesterone. But a lot of women, there are a lot of benefits from having it. So if you can tolerate, progesterone is very important, and testosterone is too, for a lot of different reasons. A lot of people don't think of testosterone as being important for bone health, but it is because it builds up the
Yes.
osteoblasts, those cells that build up bone. So yeah,
Yes. No, I know. I think
moods, muscle.
there's a lot, there's so much, each hormone has such a large job. And
Yes.
and we need all of them. It drives me just nuts when women go in and maybe they can get estrogen, maybe they can get progesterone, and the doctor is like, oh, you don't need testosterone. Meanwhile, theirs is like two. Like, that's not healthy.
What's really funny, Clarissa, is I didn't start taking testosterone until maybe 3 years ago. And I did it. I'm still not taking a bunch. I mean, it's very light because my hair wants to fall out when I take it. And I've done my test. I don't convert it to DHT
No.
real readily. I don't, so I don't know. Um, but I did it. I thought, muscle mass, did it really help with that on the amount that I'm taking? Probably not. But you want to know, God, the honest truth, why I started taking it?
Why?
Orgasms.
Okay.
It's like my orgasms had fallen, and it didn't fall until, and I know this is a little touchy here. It's like, ooh, but and I might turn red, but but about 3 years ago, it's like, where are they? And I hadn't changed my estrogen, I hadn't changed anything else. And it was just what my body needed. And for some women, the estrogen and progesterone is enough. Everyone's a little bit different.
Right. No, that's true. Well, since you shared your story, mine is
Yes.
like backwards from yours. So when I first started having problems, God, back in like 2015, they put me on testosterone first back in 2016. So I've been on it for 10
Okay.
years. But that was my very first hormone. It was like changed my life. I thought my insomnia went away, my mood swings went away, my
Wow.
night sweats went away. I mean, sex was okay, but whatever. And so that was great. And I used testosterone on its own for a long time. Then we added progesterone because insomnia came back and some
Hmm.
anxiety came back. And so I was on that for a long time. And then recently, this past year, I couldn't freaking orgasm to save my life. So we added estrogen. So now I have them all. But I mean, it's like, see, every woman is different. So
Is different.
so don't let your doctor tell you what you need. You have the labs, you need them all. You have all three hormones, you need them.
Yeah, you do. And every practitioner is going to approach things a little bit differently, and that's okay. And you can try what they're approaching and then ask. You can still say, hey, I'm not getting where I want to be. Can we try this? There is nothing wrong with trying any of this.
Yes. No, that is true. That
Yeah.
is
And I think the more we talk about it,
yes.
amongst each other and more candid about even things like the sexual part of it, because it's important if someone wants to be intimate.
Yes.
It's really important. It's not something, and for some women, they think testosterone's what they have to do in order to have libido back, and it does help with that. But I also want to point out to women, when were we the horniest? When we were fertile years. This is when we're ovulating. It's when our estrogen is the highest. So we need estrogen as part of it too.
Yes, no, that was my missing piece, estrogen, which scared me. Oh my gosh, I was so afraid because I have struggled with estrogen dominance for a long time. And
Ah,
I was like, oh God, oh God. But like you said, you can try it. If it makes
yeah.
the symptoms worse, don't take it anymore. You
And
know?
you can adjust the amounts. Maybe you
Yes.
just need a little touch.
Right. Yeah. No, that's what I'm using. That's enough. I feel like so incredibly different.
Yeah, in 5 years you'll need more, or not, or who knows?
I don't know. We'll see what my body does.
Yes, we will see. Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you for your wonderful conversation again, Cindy. I've taken up a lot of your time, but you've shared so much valuable information. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Do you want to remind everyone where they can find your hormone information?
Yeah. My website, which is alivingbalance.net, not .com, .net. And then on Instagram, I'm Cindy. It's Cindy with the underscore slash Dupuie. That's Instagram. And then I also am on YouTube, and that's at A Living Balance. Yeah. Where else? And as far as, the little download that you can do for the PDF for the labs and things like that, that's also on my website. So in order to work with me, that's probably the best place to go. And if, you're interested, you can just schedule a quick little mini introductory call. Let me know what's going on with you, and we can see if it's something that we're a match at working at. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cindy. I truly appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your time, your energy, your knowledge. I just truly appreciate it. I think it's very valuable.
Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And to our audience, thank you for joining us. Be sure to head over and check out Cindy's website. Give her a follow on social media. I know I always appreciate new followers. And be sure to tune in next time for another great episode. We'll catch you later.